In Spidey's apartment, Spider-Man is sleeping in late. It's not usually like this, but with the recent events that transpired between him and Venom, which we covered in the last video, he has been getting very little sleep lately. But Peter has to shake off these thoughts, because tonight is the night that he finally gets to ask Mary Jane Watson out on their first date, and so he starts to get ready. But just as he finishes brushing his teeth, his spider sense starts tingling, warning him of danger. As he turns around to find the source, he sees that it's coming from his window. And so he swings open the window and climbs onto the fire escape to get a better look at what's going on. That's when he sees that there is a giant spider web blocking his way. Intrigued, Spider-Man reaches out to try and feel it, but just as soon as he touches it, an alarm clock shaped like a spider goes off, startling Spider-Man and causing him to fall backwards through the window. As Peter lays there dazed on the floor, he hears the alarm clock shaped like a spider chirp at him, saying, "Rise and shine, Spider-Man. It's time for you to get up." And Peter is confused as to how this alarm clock made it all the way up to his window, and why did it web itself to him. He looks over at the window and notices another web being spun, so he runs over to cut it before the clock can make its escape. But each time he tries to leave, the clock webs itself back to him. This continues for several minutes until Peter figures out that the only way to get out is to go down the fire escape instead. So he starts climbing down. Meanwhile, inside the apartment, the clock beeps triumphantly as it sees Spider-Man leave the building. Just as Peter makes it down to the ground level, though, he hears the clock say, "Oh, don't go anywhere, Spider-Man. We're not done yet," as more webbing shoots out from the clock, catching Peter off guard and pulling him right back up into the air. And then the clock says, "You wouldn't want to be late for our date now, would you, Spider-Man?" His voice dripping with sarcasm. Confused and annoyed, Peter asks, "Date? What date? Who are you?" But the clock doesn't answer him. Instead, it leaps out of Peter's window and lands on the fire escape, where it starts spinning a huge web. Then it says, "Prepare to meet your doom, Spider-Man," as it begins inching closer and closer to him. Peter tries to attack, but the webbing is too sticky and holds him fast. As Venom slowly approaches, he taunts Peter further, saying, "I've been waiting for this moment for a long time, Spider-Man. Now you will finally die, and I will finally get my revenge." Peter struggles against the bonds that hold him, trying to come up with a plan. He thinks about how Venom always gets angry whenever he hears him use his real name, so Peter yells, "Hey Venom, you're not going to kill me. Not only do I have a date to get to, but Aunt May's apple pie is gone. Nah, be ready soon, and I can't wait for that." Venom stops in his tracks, turns around to face Peter and says, "What did you say? You have somewhere else to be? Why didn't you tell me this sooner?" Peter knows exactly what he has to do now, so he plays along. Says, "Yeah, you know, I was gonna go tell you, but I figured you'd be too busy hatching evil plans or whatever it is that bad guys do." Venom takes a deep breath and says, "That is true, but I suppose I could make time for a little fun. After all, it's not every day that I get to see Spider-Man squirming around like this. But let's make this quick, shall we? I still want to cause as much chaos as possible tonight." And with that, Venom drops to the ground below and starts running away. Peter smiles to himself as he watches him go. As soon as the coast is clear, Peter cuts the webbing holding him and swings down to the street level. He then shoots a web towards a nearby building and swings away, arriving at Mary Jane's apartment. When she opens the door, she is immediately struck by how disheveled Peter looks. There's dirt all over his clothes, his mask is askew, and his hair is a mess. But Peter quickly recovers and says, "Wow, you look beautiful tonight, Mary Jane. Are you ready to go?" She smiles and says, "Yes, I am," as she grabs her jacket and the two head out the door. The entire time, Peter keeps glancing over his shoulder, half expecting Venom to jump out from around the corner and ruin the date. But thankfully, that doesn't happen. The two enjoy their evening out together, and Peter even finds himself having a lot of fun. However, after a while, he starts to get a terrible feeling that something isn't right. Venom may have pretended to leave, but he never actually went far. In fact, he's been following Peter the whole time, and he's gotten pretty close. Peter suddenly feels very self-conscious and embarrassed for how he acted earlier. He thinks to himself, "Why did I make fun of Venom? He was right. I needed to get out of the house and stop moping about Uncle Ben. He was right, and I owe him an apology." Just as Peter is about to turn around and go back, though Venom appears behind him and says, Well, if it isn't Spider-Man and his little friend, Care to join me for some fun, Spider-Man? But Mary Jane steps in front of Peter, shielding him from Venom's sight. She faces Venom and says, "Leave him alone." Venom responds, "Oh, don't worry, little girl. This will be over before you know it." And with that, he lunges towards them. Peter instantly pushes Mary Jane out of the way, knocking her off balance. Venom wraps his tendrils around Peter, lifting him off the ground and saying, "Finally, the prey has returned." Peter struggles against him, but there is no use. Venom is just too strong. Then Mary Jane steps forward and says, "Leave him alone." Venom turns around and asks, "What did you say?" Mary Jane stands her ground and repeats, "Leave him alone." Enraged, Venom throws Peter to the side and turns his attention back to Mary Jane. He says, "So you want to protect Spider-Man, little girl? It's very well. I shall make you suffer for it." He lunges towards her, but that's when Peter jumps in the way. He yells, "Get away from her, you overgrown lizard." Peter and Venom engage in a fierce battle, but Peter is no match for him. Venom as Lee overpowers Peter, sending him flying through the streets. But just when it seems like all hope is lost, Venom lets out a loud screech, startling Peter, who takes this opportunity to web up Venom's mouth. Then Peter yells, "That's for making fun of me earlier, you overgrown lizard." But Venom breaks free of the webbing and says, "Foolish Spider-Man, you think that you can defeat me with such a pathetic trick. You disappoint me." Then lunges towards Peter, but this time Peter is ready for him. He dodges Venom's attack and says, "Actually, I got this idea from you. Remember when you were stuck in my apartment and I kept webbing up your mouth?" Venom growls. But before he can attack again, Peter webs up his hands. Then he yells, "Now, how do you like that, huh? You big bad Venom?" But Venom just laughs and says, "This is just making me angrier now. Prepare to die, Spider-Man." With that, Venom blasts Spider-Man with a powerful energy beam, knocking him off his feet. Peter lays there on the ground, defeated. He looks up at Venom and says, "I guess you're right. I can't defeat you. I'm not strong enough yet." Venom walks towards him and says, "That is correct. You are weak, but that will soon change. For I have a surprise for you, Spider-Man. A surprise that will make you stronger than you can possibly imagine." Just then, the alarm clock shaped like a spider leaps out of the shadows and lands on Peter's chest. It says, "That's right, Spider-Man. Your weakness is my strength. For I am the one who has been controlling you this whole time." Venom looks down at the clock and says, "So it is true. I should have known you would betray me in the end." The clock responds, "You misunderstand. I haven't betrayed you. I've simply realized that there is greater power in being the hero than being the villain. And so I have chosen to help Spider-Man instead." With that, the clock wraps its tendrils around Venom's neck and starts to squeeze. Venom struggles against it, but the clock is too strong. It lifts Venom off the ground and says, "It's over, Venom. Now you will finally die." With that, the clock crushed Venom, ending his threat once and for all.